Welcome to our installation video on the Burpee raised garden bed. I'm Chelsea Fields, here to walk you through step by step just how easy it is to assemble. Each Burpee raised garden bed comes with everything you need to install a complete home garden system. This high-quality modular system is built from long-lasting material, is highly versatile, and meant to keep critters out of the garden. Let's get started. The first and most important consideration is selecting the best site for installing your raised garden bed system. Second, you'll want to locate your garden on level, well-drained ground that's convenient to all of your watering and harvesting needs. Speaking of watering, all raised garden beds need to be kept well irrigated due to the finished height of the raised bed. Each raised garden bed has a finished dimension that's roughly 5 feet by 10 feet. So we'll want to mark out an area that's roughly 7 feet by 12 feet. To level out the area, begin by driving stakes into each corner of the 7 by 12 foot area. Run the string stake to stake, corner to corner, connecting all sides of the area. Attach the enclosed string level to the strings to determine the high point. Make all corners meet at the high point, build up the soil in this area, or have the high point lowered to match the others by digging out the soil. With your strings now completely level, rake out your soil to make it even with the string line. You can even fine-tune the soil by using a 4-foot level. Now that the site is fully prepared and we've removed our stakes and guidelines, we're going to start building the beds from the bottom up. To lay the foundation of our raised garden bed, we'll be using hardware cloth. This wire screening stops burrowing animals from getting under and into our garden and eating all of our vegetables. Now that the landscape screening is unrolled, we'll want to lay it evenly across the length of the garden. To secure the two pieces of screen together, I'm going to be using a cable tie to fasten them. Repeat the process for all 4 ties. The final step is to secure the perimeter of the fabric using the enclosed landscape staples. Before we go any further, we'll want to install our irrigation. So to do that, I cut a small hole in the landscape screening and fed the hose up through the screening, leaving 2 to 3 feet sticking out of the end. We're going to get started building up the sides of our raised garden beds. I'm going to be using 2x6 Western red cedar. You can also use Burpee approved composite planks. For the cedar planks, we recommend using the Burpee supplied eco-friendly wood treatment. In 2 coats, it allows the wood to stand up to the constant ground contact throughout the growing season. Starting with the corner, I've aligned 2 of the boards flush and square with a corner bracket. I'll be using 4 of the supplied screws to adhere the boards to the bracket. We'll finish up the short 5-foot side of the bed by securing the other corner and then continuing to work our way around the bed. Now that the walls for our raised garden bed are attached and secure, we'll go ahead and add the brackets for our trellis. Since you want to avoid your trellis shading out the rest of your plants during the growing season, keep in mind the movement of the sun. Generally, the north side of the bed is the best place for your trellis. The trellis brackets simply slide over the ends of the 2x6s spaced on a 40-inch center. Now I'll secure the watering timer bracket on the top board about 2.5 inches above the board on the side of the bed where the watering hose is coming in. Now we'll be filling the beds with a loose, well-drained, rich soil mixture of 50% compost and 50% screen topsoil. Our 5x10 raised garden beds take about 2 yards of soil to fill properly. Keep in mind that soil settles 2 to 3 inches over time, so when you're adding the 2 yards, it'll be mounded, but this allows for proper settling. Your soil will settle to even with or just below the top of the garden bed. To begin assembling our trellis, we'll first find the shortest side of the trellis netting. For convenience, each corner of the trellis netting has been marked with white tape. This side will be the side that threads through the top support bar of the trellis. Beginning at the top corner, thread the bar in and out, alternating squares of the top net. Now insert the screw through the top post and into the white backing, connecting the threads. And tighten with your Phillips head screwdriver. We'll do this on both sides of the top rail. To complete the sides of our trellis frame, we'll take the silver insert piece and sleeve it through the straight side piece of the frame and secure it into place with our screw. Next, we'll attach the curved bottom piece by sleeving it over the silver fitting and attaching with a screw. I'll repeat this process for the other side. Now, taking the side piece with the curved area remaining at the bottom, thread the straight piece up through the netting, alternating holes like you did with the top bar. The side bar will connect to the top bar by sliding over the white plastic fitting. Gently tap the top bar into place, securing together the top and side pieces. Now that the trellis is fully assembled, it's time to mount it onto the base of our raised garden bed, fitting it into the trellis brackets. It's important to orient the curve of the frame in this fashion so that the trellis actually sits in towards the bed, away from the edge. Now we'll finish up our trellis by inserting our protective end caps into each end of the trellis. Secure the bottom and top corners of the trellis netting using the supplied zip ties. Raised garden beds require precise watering. For this reason, your kit comes with a digital watering timer, a rain sensor, which feed your drip tape. We'll begin by attaching our digital watering timer to our filter and water regulator, placing it through our mounting bracket. As with all threaded connections, we'll be wrapping it in Teflon tape. With our Teflon tape in place, we'll be putting our timer through the mounting bracket and securing it to the filter by tightening the threaded area. Make sure that the water regulator is parallel with the long end of the bed. Now we'll be attaching our rain sensor to our mounting bracket using the wing nut, being sure to keep the rain gauge facing upwards. To continue our irrigation setup, we'll be running our water distribution hose, which is the round black hose with a white stripe down it, and fitting that onto our water filter regulator. Once you have the hose over top of the coupling, tighten the fitting. It's important to note that this turns counterclockwise. With our water line now connected, we'll want to crimp off the end, terminating it at the end of the bed. To do this, we'll be using this figure 8 fitting. And I'll cut off the excess tubing to complete this step. Now position the tube at the end of the bed, securing with a landscape staple. It's time now to run our drip tape off of our main water distribution line. Since this is what waters your crop, it's important to determine what and where you'll be planting so that you can space out the drip tape accordingly. First, use the included punch tool to punch a hole in the main line. Second, insert the hose barb into the main line. With our hose barb attached, we'll take our drip tape, seam side down because this is where the water emitters are, and expand and attach onto the nozzle end of the hose barb, tightening the cuff. Unroll the irrigation tape across the width of the bed, extending just slightly past the end of the bed. Cut it off from the main roll. Also cut an additional section of about 1.5 inches long. This will become the cuff to crimp off the end of the drip tape. Fold the drip tape back twice and pinch the ends together, narrowing it enough to slide into the cuff. Now feed the landscape staple through the rolled end just below the cuff and secure into the garden soil. Repeat this process for the number of rows you'll have at the desired spacing. The last step is to attach the in-feed coupling to the top of the timer. At this point, turn on your water supply, checking all couplings for leaks and tightening as needed. Now that our bed is ready for planting, all that's left to do is protect it from small animals. To do this, we'll assemble our small animal barrier. The first step is to insert our support tubes into the corner and center posts. Now that our support tubes are in place, we'll be adding our small animal corners and center over top. Now we'll slide the small animal screening into the corner and side channels, keeping the decorative side out. If you've purchased the additional deer fencing option, now's the time to add these support tubes into the center and corner posts. Just as we did on the lower level, we'll now add on our deer fence posts onto the corner and center of each support. What's important to notice on each of these support posts is that there's a stopper for the screen located at the bottom of the post itself. Making sure that this pin is always oriented down, you'll want to put this onto its post with the flat side facing in towards the garden. Place all remaining posts on their supports, making sure that they're oriented properly. Similar to how we sleeve the small animal screen, we'll do the same with the deer screening, keeping the decorative design facing outwards. Repeat the same process for the remaining open sections. To finish the beautiful garden look, each bed is complete with finial post toppers and a quality Burpee placard. Now that your Burpee raised garden is fully assembled with critter fencing and deer fencing, you know that your plants are safe from pests. The watering system is programmed and the high quality material will endure season after season. Log on to burpee.com for gardening tips and tricks. Happy gardening!